Hi everyone, welcome to Use It or Lose It. We're going to be looking at the New Zealand and Australia Super Rugby competitions. I'm standing in for that man, Couch Critic. Can you believe it? Those who watch our Thursday night show will know we give the guy a hard time for the fact that he never seems to work, and he's pulled out of the show due to work commitments. I'm pretty suspicious. I wonder what's really on the go. I can't imagine that he's working nice and early, I must tell you, on a South African morning, and that is to enable us to bring in our New Zealand guests. And let's start off at top of the screen there. It's Cornflake Steve. Steve, good to have you back on the show. I normally watch the show. It's strange to be presenting it again, but look forward to chatting some rugby with you.
Yeah, no, it's good to be back. It's been a while since we've done a show together, but yeah, good to hear your dulcet tones once again, and hopefully have a look at another exciting weekend of rugby coming up.
Yeah, it should be a good one, and I know you know me as well. I'm very much a betting man, and although this is not a betting show, I am going to throw the odd little bet at you there because I know that you are prone to a punt, as they say. And let's go down to the bottom here. So, man, he's heading up New Zealand radio. Paul, I was just saying before you joined us backstage to Steve, I don't know how you do it, man. I mean, I know you've got at least one show every day, but normally more. And you've been going since sort of the whole lockdown type of thing began in March. You must be absolutely exhausted.
Yes, basically. We've been going, 25, I think today was episode 25 of our morning news show. So that's 25, that's 125. That's 125 on the trot, getting up for a 7 a.m. news show. Yeah, it's been knackering, to be blunt. But I'm looking forward to this because Steve bailed out on our review show last Sunday when his Highlanders lost to the Blues. So I'm really looking forward to this. So yes, here we go. I've actually got an Auckland rugby jersey on rather than the Blues, but close enough. So yes, Steve, you can run, but you can't hide.
I was looking forward to arguing about knock-ons and forward passes and things like that. That's what I was more annoyed about missing that show about. But I've got the same excuse with work. It's a bit of a shame. If you did the show on Monday, it might be a bit more friendly. Give me more than an hour and a half to watch the last game and get on and talk about it.
Well, I must say, I really lambasted him a bit for the Highlanders.
Hide down by the drills and just watch headphones in and watch on your phone.
Well, guys, I know that you guys often have a bit of a laugh about the Australian game, but that's where we'll start in terms of review. And let's go to the first game that took place last week. It was the Force against the Rebels. This game, I can tell you from a betting perspective, the Rebels were very firm favourites. The Force beat yet another handicap, punched above their weight. They managed to draw 20, and then ultimately lost in super time. I must be honest, I didn't watch the super time because the last time they had super time was so boring that I didn't. So I literally walked away, and I think I made myself a coffee, and I came back, and the game was over. So, Steve, what did you make of this one? I'll tell you up front, I expected more from a points point of view. It was quite a scrappy game early on, but I suppose at the end of the day, at least it was competitive.
Yeah, well, I think we've seen a bit of a different side of the Force than we've probably seen in the last few weeks. Predominantly over the last few weeks, they wanted to go out there, they wanted to entertain. They've been kicking to corners, they've been going for tries, trying to get everything in groups of sevens. Now I think they got a bit of a lesson in the last round, and they had to try and go back to that. I don't know, to put a poorly way of putting it, but to a test match sort of way of playing is to take their points, get any opportunities they can to get down the field, get into the game. Tick the scoreboard over is generally a good place to start. Get something on the board for your time of possession and in good territory. And that kind of worked out for them. But I think they're up against a team in the Rebels, which, as I've been watching this team and writing the preview for this week's action with the Rebels' next game, I find the Rebels are a team that often play to their opponents more than to their own game plan. So if their opponents are a worse team or a better team, they'll often lift or they'll drop off the pace, or they kind of don't really go out and play their own game. So the fact that the Force, to whether they played good or bad, the Rebels kind of played that sort of standard with them, and they just couldn't get away. And the Force, to their credit, their team, as we know what underdogs are, they get up, they get a bit of confidence up, they're still in that game, and that's dangerous to do against a team like the Western Force, because once they've got that on their side, they can sit with you, and they've got players that can step it up and reach that next sort of level. But yeah, the super time, it was a bit of a shame how we had kind of just fizzled out so quickly with one era. And I think the Rebels kind of looked at that super time as well, and as they'd watched, being in that game, and you could see they realised that we've been far below par. And there was kind of a sense of trying to prove a point because that last 80 minutes they just played was pretty average by a team that has a standard that they want to be in there as competition contenders. They certainly weren't like that. They certainly haven't been that throughout the season, I don't think. And that 2 or 3 minutes, whatever it was, of super time was probably the best rugby they've played this season, I think.
Oh, so you're telling me I missed the Rebels' best 2 or 3 minutes of the season?
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks very much. I think going down to you, Paul, on this game, for me, what got me about the Rebels, and Steve touched on it, is they seem very inconsistent. I mean, a few weeks ago they played the Waratahs. I really thought they delivered a decent performance. And then they come out and show us what they did against the Force. And that's where I'm struggling with the Australian game at the moment. I'm struggling to pick any consistency among the sides. I would say leaning more towards consistently bad, most of them, than consistently good. But I'm really battling with that. I mean, what did you make of it? I mean, the Force could have won this game. They had a penalty late on that could have got them the win.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you talk to Phil Kearns, though, was it Phil Kearns? One of those guys, anyway, said that he reckoned that he'd back any Australian side against any New Zealand Super Rugby side.
Rod Kafer, I think it was Rod Kafer.
Oh, Rod Kafer, thank you. Yes, Kafer did. And you're like, boy, there's a guy who likes doing a bit of clickbait, and boy, didn't it work? Everyone jumped on that one. Yeah, you're right. The standard hasn't been there, but look, it's been exciting. It's been tight. The levels definitely picked up after the first week, which was really kind of poor. But yeah, there's still errors in this one. And look, the Rebels should have got some points in that first half, but just mistakes and some just crazy play. Crossfield kicks in your own 22. What are you playing at? I mean, they really were dicing with it. Were the Rebels in this one, and the Force again. Look, lots of possession and stuff, but just not being able to really put the Rebels away. And for all the possession and territory the Force had, they should have come away with a lead at halftime, allowing the Rebels to get back into it when they were 10-0 up to, and just in that last 10 minutes for the Rebels to come back and even things up at halftime. I don't think the Force have got anyone to blame except themselves really in this one. And look, the only reason Super Time was super was because they shelled the restart. To be honest, if they hadn't, then we'd have ended up with kickback like we had in the other one. But they shelled the restart, and if you give a team territory, then they can't kick for territory, can they? So they've got to play. They've got no other choice. So basically, that's what that's what you ended up with. So yes, it seemed like an exciting 2 minutes, but it's because they were like, oh, I'm not supposed to be here. What do I do? I guess I've got to play. So there is that. But you're right. It apart from the Brumbies, who are actually a proper rugby side, for the rest, you're kind of flipping a coin and going, what are we going to see here? The relative strengths are pretty clear. So from a betting point of view, it's not too bad. But from knowing, or from prediction point of view, but actually knowing what fare you're going to get served up is anyone's guess.
It certainly is. Steve, I'd like to just go to you on the Australian game because, Rod Kafer's comment, I was one of the ones who fell for the clickbait. I came in on Twitter and I said, this is exactly what's wrong with Australian rugby. And where I'm going with that is the commentators. I can't stand them. And it's because you get this mediocre contest that has been, a guy will make one big hit and they'll go crazy. And it's billed as like the game of the century. And then I'd almost far rather they be a little bit more realistic about it. Whereas, of course, New Zealand commentators do the same thing. But the problem is each game is at the intensity. So you can sort of enjoy the commentary. But I'm really battling. What did you make of Kafer's comments, though? I mean, the Wallabies I don't know if he meant it from a point of view as if you take your best team, if you take your team out of there and make a Wallabies team, they'll give the All Blacks a run for their money. I'm not sure maybe that's what he meant. But what did you make of that? I think he was stretching things quite a lot.
I want to jump in here and talk rugby politics, basically. So what you sit back down, Steve. You're not needed just for this little bit.
It's okay. I've removed him from the stream. Don't worry.
So basically, look, for this bit it basically comes down to, look, Fox Sports have finally got their guy in charge. Therefore, they're going to get a good deal with the TV. So they've stopped bashing the sport to try and reduce the price. Now they've actually now they're going to get the rights at a good price. They're trying to build up the sport and talk positively about it so that people actually watch it. And you've seen that there's been a massive sea change in the way they commentate. Prior to lockdown, it was all, the referees are awful, they're destroying the game, this game is destroyed, it's awful, the game's dying. Now, as you say, it's the best game in the world, they're wonderful, they're superb. At least they're talking the game up, which is nice rather than bashing it. But yeah, you say that they swing from one extreme to the other.
Yeah, fair enough.
Contracts.
Go for it, Steve. You could have your chance now.
I mean, as the one that painfully tries to commentate themselves, I think the Australians are well, they're far too one-eyed. They think they're the greatest team out there. They think that what they do is the new release of any sort of set play, any sort of type of play, any sort of tackle. They're the first ones that've done it. That's the best way it's been done, and it's the best way anyone can do it. I think that's what gets up people the most, is just the fact that it's not realistic commentary of what it's actually being portrayed out there on the field. People want to just know, why is that penalty a penalty, or why is that being called, kind of as you'd expect from commentary to tell you what's going on and compliment the game, not be told that Michael Hooper is a god amongst anyone who lives on the Australian island. No one wants to hear that. So that's that's what really I think gets up people the most, and especially when you're going against the South African teams and against the New Zealand sides like that. Let's be realistic about it. The Aussie teams generally do struggle, and if you are looking at Super Rugby sides, I mean, the Brumbies may get into the competition and fare themselves all right, probably against the Chiefs, maybe the Highlanders, but anyone else, not a chance at all. Not a chance at all. Yeah, maybe the Highlanders. What are you opening up for? Well, I mean, and possibly, the Blues of the last 3 decades as well. We'll talk about the Blues later on. We'll talk about them soon. But yeah, they're good enough, though. They're good enough, the Brumbies. I think, like Paul said before, they're a professional outfit and by far the best Australian team.
Well, you've led us straight into the Brumbies game, and I want to jump up to the top of the screen because he's moved there now to Paul. Brumbies 22, Reds 20. Paul, this one came down to literally the last kick of the game where the Brumbies got it. Now, we've been talking about the Brumbies as being comfortably the best Australian team. My word, I thought the Reds were very unlucky to lose this game. And I thought the Brumbies, Paul, were quite well at par.
Yeah, and you've got to say both sides had an opportunity to sort of sort things out at the end there, but we had like 4 turnovers in the last 2 minutes. And both sides were like, no, you finish off the game the way you want. No, please, you do. Neither side could control that ball, which was crazy. Yeah, it was a crazy finish. Really exciting, but not really high quality, was it? Let's be honest. The Brumbies, look, basically the Reds fell into the trap, didn't they? Let's just quickly just check on the old snaps because there we go. 7 penalties by the Brumbies, 12 by the Reds. Now, Reds, if you're going to give away more penalties to the Brumbies, you're going to find out there's going to be a line-out maul starting somewhere within your 22, and you're not going to stop it. And essentially, that's it, isn't it? At the end of the day.
They certainly do enjoy that line-up more. I mean, I know a Couch Critic who normally hosts this show, he loves betting on the Brumbies hooker to score the first try. And I mean, it's ridiculous. I remember the days, I've been betting for years. I remember the days you could get like 66-1 on a hooker scoring the first try. And now, like, the hooker's actually the favourite to score the first try. I mean, particularly when the Brumbies play. But Steve, what were your thoughts on this game?
Well, it's pretty similar. I mean, on my notes of that game, the first thing I've put it there is the line-out maul. Enough said. To sum up pretty much most of that game. I've been saying it since the start of the competition that the Reds are the second best team in Australia, but I think by quite some distance as well. And I think this game proved it, really, because they're the only team that have really pushed the Brumbies quite nicely. They've got a good attack. They've got a very strong pack that works differently to the Brumbies. They're a very mobile pack. They get around. They make their hits. They make their runs. They like to be out there in the park with ball in hand as well, doing things. The Brumbies are more structured. Like we say, they go to their set piece. They like that sort of style of rugby. But the Reds are an exciting team, and I think they're only going to get a lot better and better as the seasons go on if they can keep the core of this team around, because they've got some nice, exciting players. I really noted down Harry Wilson, I think was his name, the big number 8. I think he's been outstanding for the Reds. A guy, obviously from this side of the Tasman, we had no idea who he was. Young guy coming through, he's really stood up. A huge asset to an already good pack. So they've got a lot of guys that are coming through there doing well. I think James O'Connor is a guy in a 10 jersey. Wouldn't ever be my first pick to wear a number 10 jumper, but I think generally he does quite a good job with those young players and taking that responsibility of the team. I think kind of suits his playing style when it's not pouring with rain. So as long as they can get that sort of, dry conditions and things like that, O'Connor can be happy. He gets, he's a very moody sort of player. If he's happy and things are going well, he gets better. If things go to custard for him, it kind of does affect him quite a bit. But yeah, I enjoy watching the Reds. I think they try and attack. They try and play exciting rugby. And well, it was an exciting matchup. But like Paul says, I mean, it wasn't super high quality game, but it was exciting. It went to the very end, and when Matt Hansen lined up that shot at goal right at the end, he just missed a conversion a couple of minutes ago would have won the game or put them in the lead. At that point, I was a bit like, well, this is a 50-50. This could go anywhere. Big credit to him. He absolutely nailed it. And I've seen they've been posting his training up on social media in the build-up to this one of him smacking them over from halfway as well. So I think they think he's quite a handy goal kicker. So they're probably surprised he missed the first one, but they'll be pretty chuffed he managed to get that second one.
Yeah, the Aussie commentators really get excited about goal kicking when it's a long kicker. I mean, when Hodge lines one up, they really get excited. Sorry, Paul?
This was a strange one. I mean, on half-time, the Brumbies have a penalty, and you're thinking they're going to go corner. No, they kicked posts and missed on half-time. You think, well, okay, this is not everything's right with this team at the moment. They got a bit lucky. I mean, just before that, the Reds had a try disallowed for a bit of a high hit, and you think, yeah, it was a long way back, and was it really that high? So yeah, you're right. The Brumbies got out of jail with this one, I think.
Yeah, that play that went backwards. I watched that back and counted. There was 4 phases after that tackle before the try was eventually scored, and I didn't find that was even a bad tackle. I mean, it was a bit of a stretch. I mean, at the point, I guess you call it a high shot and get away with it, but that was an example of, I think, the Reds and the way that they play, how exciting they can be and how open and fluid and the interplay between their forwards and their backs really can be exciting when they get going, because they've got those guys that out there running. Everyone's a danger of ball in hand. I think that's one of their best assets.
Right, guys, I'm going to say this. I think we've spent enough time now talking about the Aussie game. Let's move on to some New Zealand rugby, because I tell you what, as a neutral, as a South African, I absolutely love these derbies, but I have no idea how the players' bodies even stand up to it, because the intensity of the big hits and that's the sheer pace of the game, it's absolutely beautiful. But it's the way rugby, I don't say it was meant to be played that way from the start, but certainly the way rugby has evolved, I think it's the way that it's meant to be played. Offloads, unbelievable stuff. And Steve, let me start with you here. The Crusaders running out comfortable winners against the Chiefs. I was a bit disappointed in the Chiefs, I must tell you. I thought they could win this game and break their duck, but it wasn't to be. They were totally outplayed.
I hope you didn't put any money on that one.
Gambling, man.
No comment. No comment.
Hang us here to hidden shame on that one. Oh, goodness me. I mean, it was an expected result, wasn't it? The Chiefs, there's a lot of talk about going into this week or into that weekend's game that, the Chiefs would go out, throw that kitchen sink. They've got nothing to lose. The season on the line kind of for the Crusaders if they didn't, pick up that performance again and go back out, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, this is the Crusaders. This is what they do. They would, they would be absolutely livid about what happened the week before. So they had to bounce back. They had to prove a point. They had to show that they are the team they are. And they pretty much did that as well. They, I think, were a bit error-ridden in a lot of patches. They made probably more mistakes than a good Crusaders side would like to admit that they did make. But it was a typical Crusaders performance. We talk about it week in, week out. This is a team that grinds the game down. They stay within the chance, of a close scoreline. And then they have that ability just at the end and either side of halftime to really lift the game. And they did that again brilliantly at the end. The bench come on, they lift the team. And it was just a typical Crusaders display. But I mean, there was only really one talking point about this game, wasn't it? It was that try to Sevu Reece that really got everyone talking. No one really cared about the result after that. The Chiefs fans are all crying about how injustice to our team yet again. And the Crusaders going, well, that's rugby. You play the whistle. And I mean, if I'm going to do anything from that whole passage, the knock-on, no knock-on, whatever you want to call it, it'll be debated until the sun rises for the next 20 years. But the fact of the matter is, I give the most credit in that to Sevu Reece, who picked the ball up, went along, put the ball down. Now you make a decision. I've picked it up. I've scored a try. You've got to decide what the right decision is. A normal player would have just probably kicked the ball away, thrown it away, just done nothing, and the play would have just died because everyone would have gone, well, it's a knock-on, and then it's easy call for the ref. Because he just goes, okay, whatever, you guys are right. But Sevu Reece made them make the decision. I think that was the biggest thing, because then they had to go look at it. They had to decide the try had been scored technically, so it had to be either a knock-on or it was a try. And that, I think, was the biggest difference. If that hadn't happened, it would have been a knock-on, and it would have been, back for the scrum, and we would have gone on for it. But, I don't know. I would have really liked to argue this one with Ashwin because he was pretty adamant, wasn't he, Paul, that this was a knock-on. And if we're going to talk about it just quickly, I can see what people say, knock-on, it went forward from where he last touched it. But if you do look at it, he actually hit the ball backwards as he was falling down. Now, I've read the rules, and if you want to get really technical about the rules, there's no actual indication of control and things like that with the actual knock-on rule. It's propelling the ball forward off your hands or arms sort of area. You can argue that they kind of have got it right because it went backwards from his hand. So it's a really tough one, but, like I say, they're going to argue that one for night and day, and you're never going to be right, you're never going to be wrong.
Well, I want to bring Paul in on that one now, but I see things exactly the way I think you. My first thought was knock on, no doubt, but I can see where they were coming from allowing the try. It wasn't clear cut as far as I'm concerned. I was on the Chiefs, as you know, so obviously I was pretty demurring to use a South African phrase that they awarded the try. But I couldn't hand on heart say that definitely wasn't a try. I just couldn't say that because, as you say, he did appear to sort of propel it back as he went through. Paul, let's start off with your comments on that particular incident and then on the game itself.
Oh, well, actually, first off, I've realised I've got a big apology to everyone on the show. Normally, you'll see me showing you what beer I'm drinking. And this week I haven't got one. So a big sorry for that, folks. I've already had a Stoke Dark Ale and also a Good George apple pie and ice cream cider. So just so you're aware, don't worry, the alcohol has been flowing. I'm just not enjoying the show itself. Look, from behind, from the original camera angle where you can't see his hands, it's a knock on all day. From the reverse angle, when you see that he gets his hand in front of that ball and attempts to hit it backwards. Did he not? Open for debate. But did it come backwards out of the hand? Yes. And if now I know there's a whole bunch of people saying he didn't have possession, but the law doesn't say possession. Or how do you define possession? Right? Is possession just touching the ball, or is possession having control? Blah blah blah. So look, I'm with Steve here. That look, he bats it backwards, and therefore it comes backwards out the hand and momentum and all that kind of stuff, folks. But you're right, Steve, with about Sophie Rees. For all the kids watching the show, now that we've been talking about betting and alcohol, play to the whistle, kids. Okay, it's a good example there. Follow what Sophie Rees says. Play to the whistle.
Well, thanks for bringing up alcohol as well. I don't know if Couch Critics mentioned it to you guys, but we cannot buy alcohol in this country. So, it is breakfast time here in South Africa, but I can tell you I haven't had a beer yet. That's for sure. But certainly, Paul, a cracking game of rugby. It was typical New Zealand derby style. The Crusaders all but wrapping up the title there. But let's move on to the next game then, which was Sunday. Do you want to?
The key thing for this one basically was that the Crusaders got out in front, and whilst the Chiefs got close, they never got their neck in front, right? And they never got not even a 1 point lead. And so the Crusaders at no point felt troubled or under real threat. They always knew they were, and that try by Severis just took the wind out of the Chiefs' sails. Look, three dodgy calls over 3 weeks. The one thing I am surprised at is that the head of referees hasn't come out and given us a proper ruling on this one, because he has the past 2 weeks, and I've not seen a squeak from him this week. And you'd think he should say yay or nay whether that was right. And with him staying silent, it gives you a good idea that no one's got a clue.
That's a very good point. I think that's it exactly. You just can't say with 100% clarity on that one. Paul, we're going to stay with you for the next game. It's Sunday morning, South African time, 5 o'clock in the morning or 5:30 in the morning. You get up to watch. I watched last week's show of yours, and Steve was so confident in the Highlanders. I just piled my money into the Highlanders on this game. And gee, no, don't worry, Steve. I actually like the Highlanders as well. I must say, and I'm a big Blues fan, and I actually went for the Highlanders here. So you can imagine on Super Brew, I had an absolute shocking week. I tumbled down every table. I only went on yesterday for the first time because, after a bad Super Brew weekend, you don't want to go and have a look. After a good one, you're refreshing, waiting for the thing to update the leaderboard. But on a bad one, you don't even go back. It's like a betting account. But anyway, this game, I read it totally wrong. Blues 32, Highlanders 21. I thought it was very impressive from the Blues here, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So all I've got to say really to Cornflake is no. We won. That doesn't work very well as a
kids. That's what alcohol does to you.
Look, in bold type, I wrote at halftime: turnovers killing the Landers, discipline hurting the Blues. and that's basically what it was that, yeah, the turnovers, the Blues have been clinical off those turnovers, and really hurting the Highlanders. And the only thing that kept really the Highlanders in this was the Blues ill discipline themselves. And that, yeah, if they kept their discipline, this would have been over much earlier and much more comfortably, because the Highlanders couldn't keep hold of the ball. And if you can't keep hold of the pill, you're not going to get any continuity, you're not going to apply any pressure, and you're not going to get many points. So yeah, hat tip to players like Dalton Papali'i, who had a really good day at the breakdown. Players, you're kind of thinking, no Hoskins to Tutu. Can Akira Iwani have a decent game without that extra, without his sidekick, or without his main man, and actually him playing the sidekick role? Yes, he could. So yeah, it was young players coming on as well. So look, that's the first time the Blues have ever won at Forsyth Bar. They've never won under the roof before. So massive statement there from the Blues and to this new generation, this dynasty that they're building for the next 20 years. Perhaps I'm getting a little bit carried away there, but great, really good win by the Blues. And I say, look, they got it wide. They knew there was space there if they could get it right to the players, and they were using any which way to get it there, with crossfield kick, triple missed passes by Barrett. Look, their wingers had a good game.
And Steve, bringing you in here, what Paul said about the previous game as well is the fact that the Chiefs just never got there. They just never really, they never recovered from a sort of a slow start. And this was kind of similar to me. The Blues, as someone who was watching it from a Highlanders perspective, the Blues just always seemed in control of this one.
I think we've seen the Highlanders probably for the last, or at least the last couple of weeks as well, and a lot of the season, you probably say, have had very poor starting stanzas of the match somewhere along the way, whether it's the first half, the first 20 minutes, the second 20 minutes. There's some sort of stanza in that first half that they just aren't at the game. They come home very, very strong. They're very, very strong finishing side. It's kind of like they wake up a little bit too late. But I mean, there was a lot of interesting factors going into this game as well for the Highlanders. And I just don't think the team was there mentally going into this one with all the debacles going on with the Queenstown trips and things like that. I think even with the coaches saying that it was very hard for them to get into training during the week with all that was going on. So that would have helped them. They started the game very, very poorly. And I just don't think that their passion was there, that enthusiasm was there. And mentally, they just weren't there to get back in that game. I do think, going to credit the Blues won that game by doing everything humanly possible to stop the Highlanders scoring, because they know the Highlanders score and play very well in that second half. And the Highlanders dominated that second half. It is not very often the Highlanders come back strong in the second half and don't get quick tries. They normally do at least 2 tries in that last little period, 2, 3, 4. If you're the Chiefs, probably about 7, as they did the week before. So they can do that. But the Blues, legally or illegally, as they keep getting absolutely hammered by the penalty count. And what surprised me is how they didn't get more cards. But alas, we won't talk about too much about referees as this game forward. I was watching them going, well, surely this is going to be a yellow card. No, we go to the corner again. This time, no, we'll go to the corner again. But, I mean, you got to credit the Blues. They played to the whistle like we talked about Sevu Reece. They played. They didn't get sent off. They kept doing it. They kept doing whatever they could. They were smashing guys. They were slowing the ball down. They were getting in the way of the rucks. As long as they had 15 men on the field, the Highlanders weren't scoring the points. That's what they had to do. And to their credit, they did it, and they did it very, very well. So that's the main thing about this game. If they let the Highlanders in with one of those tries early in that second half, or 15 minutes in when they started really dominating and just camping down in that 22 of the Blues, I think that game could have changed very, very differently. I would have liked to see the Blues get a bit rattled, if the points started to come back, and to see, what they're made of in the state they were in. That confidence on their side, they had that lead on their side, and it's a bit easier then. You've got it's like we can do this, and if we let one in, okay, we've still got another 10, 15 points to sit on as well. But yeah, credit to the Blues, they did that, and the Highlanders, that they just need to wake up. They need to play a first half of rugby. That's their biggest problem, I think, this whole season. It's getting more prominent as the season's worn on throughout the year. So what it is, yeah, who knows? If I knew, I'd be up in Dunedin, probably coaching them. But I'm not. So I'm down here in the cold. But it was good to see Josh Ioane back. from a Highlanders perspective. I think we've still got massive problems in the midfield. Michael Collins is 13. No thanks. You can go back somewhere else on the bench or something. But yeah, it's just fine that Rob Thompson's had a shocking season. He's been nowhere near as effective as he has. Co Tompkinson's been decent enough, but yeah, there's just patchy holes. Guys coming back. I think it's a season that the Highlanders will probably look back on and say they've found out a lot, they've learned a lot, they've improved a lot, but there's still a lot to work on for this team, because that's the sort of game that they shouldn't want to be in that sort of situation, just like the Chiefs where they were at halftime and going to that second half chasing such a massive deficit. So, yeah, again, credit to the Blues. They certainly did win that game in the first half.
And thanks very much for bringing up the Highlanders-Chiefs game from a few weeks ago, because I lost an absolute fortune on that game on the Chiefs. So I just cannot catch this Highlanders team right. Paul, sorry, come in there.
No, that defensive piece you're talking about is right. It took like 15. There was about 50 minutes of bashing away at the line before Frizzell got that try at the end there. And the yellow card. The yellow card was absolutely dumb. You get warned just before a line out that the next next penalty is a yellow card. What's the guy do? He drives while the guys. He does an early drive while the guys in the air. And you just sat there going yellow, done. It was just so blatant. So look, the Blues aren't playing a full 80 yet. They've shown that they're switching off at different times. That was a moment where they switched off, where they made the kind of mistake, and that's the difference between them and the Crusaders, is that the Crusaders don't switch off. These Blues do. They switch off at times and give teams opportunities that they shouldn't do. And that early drive was just plain dumb when you've just been warned. So yeah, it was yellow card all day. A player that I do want to call out though, I thought Gregory is playing well after having an absolute shocker in his debut. He's come back and playing out on the wing there, has been playing quite well. Still out of position, and he's a centre. He could be your 13 that you're looking for there, Steve. But it's good to see him. Someone that I've sort of watched up when he's been playing for Northland, etc., and wished him well. So yeah, it's good to see him have a good game.
Excellent. Before we move on to predictions for the games this weekend, Paul, I want to ask you. I know you're not a big betting man as such, but you do track your progress against the bookmakers. How's that going this season?
Yeah, so it's going good. So what I do, folks, is I basically back up my predictions with a $3 bet, just on who the winner's going to be. So nothing too flash, none of this trifecta, whatever you call it, first tries, last person who takes a fart before they start the game kind of stuff. Just straight, simple, who wins, who loses. Now, I had a bit of the first 3 rounds when the Australians came back. I must have had 3 red rounds then, but I've had a couple of green rounds. I'm up still. So I'm up $5 on the season. Now, look, that's not a lot, but I'm only putting $3 a game.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're up in this game, you're up. That's all that really counts. If you can make money off the bookmakers, and I mean, let's face it. Some of the times when you're going for a win, you're going to be you'll be winning, but you'll be getting quite a low payout back because the team is obviously quite a big favorite. But good to hear that you're up. I mean, you're doing better than most punters. Let me tell you that right now.
Yeah, I was up on the very first round before lockdown, and I've been up. So also I've had winning and losing weeks. Don't get me wrong, and I had those 3 losing weeks on the trot, but I've been up the entire time all season, so I'm happy with that.
Excellent. Well, let's move on to this weekend's games then. Starting on a Friday. This is Friday morning South African time. I'm not too sure what that works out to you there, but probably quite late at night or in the early hours there for you guys. I'm not sure. Rebels against the Brumbies. And Paul, I'll start with you here. What's your prediction for this game? And I can tell you from a betting perspective, we've got the Brumbies here as 5-point favorites.
I've gone Brumbies by 3. I think it'll be a bit closer than that, as we've said. If the Rebels can just not give away penalties, then it's hard to see how these Brumbies will pull away from them. But the Brumbies are the most, the most professional team out there. So I expect them to get the job done. Right,
Steve, your pick on this game?
Yeah, well, I've gone Brumbies, clearly, but I've gone a bit bigger than I've gone by 10. I'm still not convinced of this Rebels team. I still don't think that they're up there as contenders. I think the Brumbies will pretty much control this game. The Rebels, I mean, bar the Waratahs, the Rebels are going down that road for me, unless something changes for them. They pick up. But I do expect, like I was saying earlier, they'll pick up their game a bit here playing the Brumbies because they're expecting a lot more from them. I think they're going to play a better game than what we've seen against them last weekend. So they should compete nicely. But the Brumbies here, 2 pro.
Right, well, you mentioned the Waratahs, so I'm going to stick with you for this game. I can tell you from a betting perspective, the game almost mirrors the other one, except here we got the Reds' favourites, 5 points.
Yeah, well, by far. Give me the Reds all day. The Waratahs, the headless chickens of Super Rugby. You talked about inconsistencies. If you want to ever show or explain someone what the word inconsistency means, just show them 5 minutes of a Waratahs game week to week, and you'll see some great stuff, and then you'll probably see 3 weeks of absolute dross. That's what the Waratahs offer up. I struggle to even want to watch these guys. The Reds, for me, I hope they pound them. I've gone with the Reds by 5, but I hope it's 25.
Excellent. But I can tell you the Waratahs, you talk about inconsistency. The biggest mistake I made this season was watching the Waratahs against the Brumbies, because the Waratahs actually played their only good game of the season. And since then, I've been like looking for that to come back, waiting for it, like the Waratahs got, and they deliver absolutely nothing. When they were hammered 29-10 by the Rebels, it was one of the worst performances I've ever seen. But now they play against the Reds. And Paul, where's your Super Brew pick going here?
Well, I've got Reds by 5 as well. And the reason being, I cannot see the Tars winning this any day of the week. But the Reds, they've won by 6, they've had a draw, they've won by 7, they've lost by 2. They don't pull away and score points. So I just can't see them putting the Tars to bed early. But I just can't see how the Tars can win this game. They're just such a rabble. But I just can't. But again, the Reds just don't have the firepower to put up a big score.
What I find of this Waratahs team is that they've got one good player, Will Harrison. We know, I've talked about him every single week. He leads his team, he kicks his goals, he does everything well, but he just has no support. And they're going to get points through him because they're going to get penalties, and he's going to knock them over. He's going to create chances. He's going to kick the team around the park well, but they're not going to find much else about that. They're not going to score any big breaking tries. I mean, like that game we talked about against the Rebels, they got that intercept try. They didn't look like scoring anything else for the whole rest of the game. Pre or after that. So that's the biggest problem. I mean, I would like to take Will Harrison out of that team and put him anywhere else. I don't really care what other Australian team he goes to. Western Force, I mean, I would enjoy his work more there. But just at the Waratahs, I feel sorry for the guy. He's a genuine, I think, talent for Australian rugby. And he's just getting that whole pressure, that whole team just dumped on him. And you've got all these experienced internationals that are just loping around, just plodding around. It's like, when's the World Cup starting next? Well,
there's him and there's Hooper, isn't there? Hooper's like, I've put my life and soul into this team, and they're all, it's not fair. Mummy, come look after me. I'm going back down the tunnel. I'm not talking to anybody. I'm taking my ball. I'm going home.
Did.
Sounds like me after one of the Waratahs games as well, I can tell you. Paul, let's stick with you because I want to let Steve go first on the Highlanders game. So I'll let you go first on the Hurricanes up against the Chiefs. I must first of all say that you lads could go into business as bookmakers, because you both, that last game, you were spot on the bookmakers line with your predictions. So I'm not going to give you the line this time. I'm just interested to see Hurricanes against the Chiefs. Paul, what have you gone for here?
Well, if you want to lose your money, put it on the Chiefs again, is all I can say. But look, again, you're looking at the Chiefs. Out of their 7 games, they've lost 2 by sort of 12 and 13. All the rest have been really tight games. They've lost by 1, 5, 7, 2, 4. Look, so again, I think the Chiefs will keep it close, but I can't see anything other than Hurricanes win by 5.
Hurricanes by 5, right? Steve, yourself?
Well, I've gone a bit more expansive and a bit more exciting on this one. I've gone the Hurricanes. Oh, no, even bigger. I haven't quite gone to the full venture of a double figure, but I have gone with the 9-point victory for the Hurricanes. I like this Hurricanes team. They've got your man Kubas Van Vikers back on the wing as well, which is nice to see him getting a few final runouts there in the yellow. But yeah, they're a good team. They're exciting. The Chiefs, kind of, you see with their team naming, they're looking forward now. They've gone for it. They've gone, we're going to throw everything. Yeah, that Crusaders game. We're going to throw all our experience. We're going to make a big, parade sort of thing for Aaron Cruden, a spectacle, for his big 100th game, which, I mean, good on him. Great player, fantastic man for New Zealand rugby, 100% deserves it. But now it's time to look forward. They're going back to Kate of Trust. They're looking forward now, looking to experience those guys, see what they can do, and just give them that higher level experience as well. So, yeah, I agree with Paul. They'll be competitive. They kick their penalties. They get around the field right. They're getting better. I think they're getting the better stuff out of their better players. I'm looking forward again seeing Anton Brown, because I think he's a crucial player not only to the Chiefs but also to New Zealand rugby. So I'm looking to see him do more in that 13 jumper as well, and what he can do up against, that Hurricanes midfield, who is going to be, the barnstormers that they always are. So exciting matchups throughout this these two teams, but I think, the Hurricanes just have that X factor. They've just absolutely stormed into the competition late on.
So basically, you're going to the biggest win of the season for the Hurricanes, because their biggest win up until now is by 7 points over the Chiefs up in Hamilton. Their other wins have been by 6-2-2. Again, all these games have been really, really close. Since they lost their first two by quite a lot. But Geordie Barrett, whoever thought that, you win games by your 15? Everyone, everyone used to tell me you win games by forwards, and the backs decide by how many. But no, not with Geordie there. Geordie decides if you win or lose.
But surely the Caketon's worth 2 points, Paul. Come on.
Oh, well, the wind. We need weather report. Quick. What's the weather going to be like down there?
Windy.
I would say, Steve, you did some good form reading there. I mean, just to mention, first of all, you won't. New Zealand games are notoriously close. If you look at it there's a bet here. I don't know if they offer it over there, but there's a bet as well. Is either team to win by 1 to 12 points, or obviously you can back them to win by 13 points or more. And that's often that's often an option guys go for these New Zealand games. You pick the team you think are going to win, and you make it by 1 to 12 points, and you get obviously a much better price than you would on, for example, just a straight win. The only downside of that is that you're always kind of one score away from losing that bet, because so you can never relax throughout the game. But New Zealand derbies do tend to be close, and I can tell you the bookmakers line there 6 points. So Paul is very close there. I'm leaning more towards you on that one, Steve. I'm actually thinking of spreading my wings on Super Brew and actually going for a double figures Hurricanes win. But then again, wow. I'm chasing. I've got to pull something out the bag now. But let's talk about close New Zealand derbies. And I mean, you can normally.
No, good. I need my weather report. I've got to give a weather report. It's going to be dry, but we're looking at 40k winds. So yes, it is going to be windy. It's going to be yes. Kicking into if you're playing into the wind, always this. Goal kicking could be at a premium in this one.
Well, guys who watch our live betting show, that's 9 o'clock South African time on a Thursday night called The Handicap. Already the boys who come on the show, I can tell you, are all over unders points here, under 53 points in that game. And they're basing it exactly on that, because for us points punters, there's nothing more important than weather. And in fact, I'm trying to befriend a New Zealander and an Australian person in every city that I can get a nice little weather forecast just before each game, because it's amazing how often the actual weather forecast sites are horribly wrong with the prediction. And you'll even the commentators will go, it's lovely conditions here in Hamilton. And then next thing you'll see raindrops on the camera. It's absolutely crazy, particularly there in New Zealand.
You've really not been to Hamilton. I live there. Okay, this lovely weather doesn't exist.
But let's talk about games. We price most of these games up pretty closely. I can tell you the bookmakers are not pricing this one up as closely, and I'm interested to see where Steve is going to pin this one.
Jeez, it's tough. It's tough, isn't it? I mean, the Crusaders are a clinical, amazing team. I mean, if you put any points here on the Highlanders to win this one, I'll call you very brave, maybe slightly stupid, but extremely, extremely brave and extremely loyal. I would give you all the credit as a loyal fan of the Highlanders, but yeah, this is going to be a tough one for them. Away, Crusaders, the problems, the troubles, the woes are going to be just amplified by this Crusaders team as well, aren't they? You get away with it against the Chiefs, but you can't get away with it against the Crusaders. But I'm still thinking it's going to be fairly close. I think we're going to be in the game. I think we'll match that come home strong. Hopefully, at the end, we'll get in there, be in the game, and I'm praying it might be close within a try by 6 points.
6 points. I'm not going to give away the bookmakers line here, Steve, but I am going to tell you that you've made your first double-digit prediction because you're more than 10 points out of what the bookmakers think is going to happen in this game. Well, pretty much on the 10-point mark. Paul, what do you make of this one?
Yes, I've got the guys in the white coats ready to drive around and pick him up because that's insane. But the way he was talking there, it's like there were days of thunder, there were days of darkness. It was evil. It was walking the earth. With his tales of woe. Oh dearie me, get a break. Yeah, look, there's no wind, there's no rain here to save the Highlanders in this one. It's going to be dry. It's going to be still. It's going to be Crusaders by 12.
Yeah, afternoon kickoff as well. Well,
Is
I can
that
tell
it?
you,
6 points difference. Come on. They live in dry and no breeze. They live under a roof, remember? They're used to that. That's home. Take us home to Canterbury. It doesn't matter where it is. Underwrite the Highlanders at your peril. The minute you write them off is the minute that you kick your behind.
well, Steve, I've got to ask you then, the bookmakers have set the line at 16.5 points here. I mean, as a betting man, which I know that you are, I don't know how often, but certainly on occasions. I mean, if you're talking beyond loyalty here and you're giving the Highlanders a dinkum chance of coming within 6 points, you've got to say they're a cracking bet on the handicap. And I must tell you that I know a lot of guys that are backing the Highlanders on the handicap. You know, they lost by 20 at Dunedin, but it was 2 late tries to the Crusaders, which unfortunately the Crusaders can do to you, which is why I hate betting against them. But I mean, would you say that 16 points to be given a start is too big?
Oh, I mean, if I was putting a bet on that, I would definitely be taking that up. Yeah, 16 points. Is it too big? When you look at this game, like you say, head over heart, no, probably not, because the Crusaders have looked phenomenal. They bounced back. Yeah, that loss would have really hurt them. And that is the most dangerous thing about a team like the Crusaders. It's like the All Blacks. When you talk about World Cups, you know, a loss, we always talked about it before the World Cup last year. Losing to South Africa in that opening game of the World Cup wouldn't have been a bad thing, because it would have been that wake-up call of we're not the best team in this competition that often, you know, the good teams really, really need. The Crusaders have had that. They've got that wake-up call. They've got their hands. Pretty much that trophy is waiting at the headquarters of Crusaders Rugby right now, ready to go on the door. So they're going to be possibly hard to stop. It's not surprising to me, but the games are just always too close. The Highlanders have made a pretty clear they're a team that will take the chances. They've got the good maul that they like to use from the line out. If they back themselves to take that, if they're in a situation they feel that they're on a good enough run, the decision-making, I think, is pretty sound when it comes to that. They take 3 when it seems to be a good choice to take 3. When it's not, and they think they get more out of that line out, they generally do that pretty well. And I think that decision-making is going to be key to this. If they can tick over points, if they can get a couple of tries in there and get the best out of those option takings, it could be a close game. I would never go as far as saying that, they're going to win this one, though. I think Crusaders just too good over that full 80 minutes. There's always going to be that period with the Highlanders falling asleep, like I said earlier, as they have been. The Crusaders are going to dominate a portion of this game where they're absolutely going to dominate big time and put points on the board. The thing is where the Highlanders can mount their own points up. Chip away at the threes, get a try or two, and you could have a close game on your hands.
If I could just sum that up for you there, Steve, you think Highlanders by 6, but whatever you do, don't follow me and bet any money on it, because I'm hoping like hell. There's absolutely nothing to back it up. Paul, any final words?
To me, in a normal game, 16 points would be too many. Looking at looking at how the games have gone this season, hence why I've gone for 12. So yeah, I think it's just slightly too many. The only thing that's different about this one is that the Crusaders can win the tournament with this game. And so, do they want to go out in style? Are they going to try and turn it all on and treat this like like a final where they want to rub the opposition's nose right in the dirt? So that could be the one thing that spurs the Crusaders on to making this actually a big score. But I say all the other performances this year, they've had that 120-point win, but the others been 14 points, 11, 13. Yeah, I think 16 is probably 2 or 3 points too many. It's not way too many, but it's 2 or 3 too many, except for the fact that this is potentially this is where they can seal that the cup, which might spur them on.
Yeah, and I must say, just looking at the history between these sides, Crusaders have put them away in Christchurch over the last few years. I think the last 3 years, something like 14 points is the closest that the Highlanders have been, if I remember correctly when I was researching my betting preview for that one. Steve, finish us off on this one.
I think, the problem with the Highlanders is we talked a lot about consistency. They are fairly inconsistent. I think if they're on song, if they actually get things right, if you get your best out of your Frizzell, your Makele Tutus, and then you get guys in that back line, if Ioane gets the guys running, if you get your Narekis on, breaking tackles, and like he's been great form off the bench the last 2 weeks. He has been incredible. Him, Josh Mackay, the former Cantabrian, he's made a big impact in that back line as well. If we can get something out of whoever's playing in midfield, they can turn up and they can put on a show. Whether they will do that, whether they got that mental capacity back again, is Aaron Smith going to be at his peak again? Because he's a guy that can really spark the team. It's a bit of a lottery. If they're on their best, they can certainly compete in this game. But the chances are that that's going to be their best, is to compete and be in that game. The worst case scenario is they could be completely out of it. But, from Paul's perspective here, talking about wrapping up the title, if I'm a Crusader, what would be the ultimate insult to New Zealand rugby to win this title? Is it beating the Crusaders in your own backyard? No, it's not really. That's not making a statement. Making a statement is going to Auckland, absolutely dominating the Blues, lifting that trophy at Eden Park, giving that middle finger to all those Eden Park fans from the Cantabrians. That would be the statement of the tournament. But they'll probably wrap it up this weekend. But that would be nice.
There you go. Stephen's predicting that actually the Crusaders are going to throw the game this weekend, folks. Look out for that dive. Look out for that dive. They're going to dive in this one. Like that boxer who takes who forced them out rather easy after a sucker punch. So there you go. The Crusaders to throw the game.
Well, the one thing, guys, I can say for sure is I'm looking forward to all 4 rugby games, but I'm looking forward to 2 of them a little bit more than the others. And in fact, perhaps the Sunday morning game more than any of them. But thanks very much for joining us, Paul. Thanks for coming on the show. I imagine you're going to try and grab an early night. You've got to be up in not too long for your morning show.
We've got some more beers to drink, and we have in just an hour's time, which obviously, as this is a recorded show, folks, not an hour from when you hear this, we have our cricket show. So I'm going to be I've got another show to do tonight before I go to bed. But then the early start for the morning sports briefing.
An absolute machine. Steve, thanks very much. Great talking with you as well. We're going to have to get you up early one of these mornings to come on your time to come on the betting show as well.
Sounds good. No, we'll look to something like that.
The Highlanders escape. Guys, thanks very much. Thanks to all of you who watched. If you are new to our channel, please do go down and hit the subscribe button. And remember, Thursday nights live, 9 o'clock South African time, probably sometime around 5 in the morning New Zealand time. That's the Handicap Rugby Chat That Matters, where we talk betting. You want to watch that show live because some of our guys, when they open their mouths and they say they like something, let's just say the bookmakers move the lines fairly quickly. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy a great weekend of rugby.